Great. Are we recording?
Yep, we're good to go.
Perfect.
Hit it.
I just wanted to say hi, my name's Britt, and I wanted to say thank you for Stan and Bob. I am a newer member to the Water Quality Framework team, and this Region 2 training has been very well timed for me to learn everything that we do. So one of the projects that I was brought in to work on is this Interoperable Watersheds Network project that I'm working with Dwayne on. So as Dwayne said, this is a digital network of sensors owned by a variety of organizations that would make the data available real time in a standard format and also discoverable. Because there's a lot of data that's being collected out there that's not necessarily being shared. So the motivation behind this project is basically the two different data models between discrete data and continuously monitored data. So we all know discrete data is typically something like a sample that you take in the field and then you send off to a lab and you get data back from them. And you know, the data model has a large set of metadata that describes a small or single sometimes set of results.
Just the opposite.
Oh.
So with the discrete data, you have a few results with less metadata. Or large, oh, sorry.
Yeah,
my fault. I
it's okay. So yeah, there's a large set of metadata with a small set of results. And WQX is great for this type of data. So what WQX schema does, in my mind, is associate each piece of metadata with every single result. So you can imagine for a continuously monitored data set that has a small amount of metadata for a very large set of results, that this model just doesn't work that well to capture that data. It's too large, the process is too large, WQX Storage just doesn't handle this very well. And so that's why this pilot project came around, is to address this issue. So the goals of the project are to make all sensor data available in a common format and to identify and test data standards and approaches with different partners to allow sensors and data management software to directly communicate with the data sharing network. So we have two demonstration projects that we're participating in right now. One is in Hackensack Passaic in New Jersey. I hope I pronounced that correctly. You guys can let me know. And then in Ohio in the Little Miami watershed. So we plan to leverage the existing standards and approaches that we have for sharing continuous data with each of these data partners. And once we test the system that we've got up and running with the data partners, we hope to expand it nationwide. So how would this work? So if you follow the diagram, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Who is the data partner in Passaic and Hackensack?
That would be, we have two. So we have New Jersey DEP that works with Rutgers, and then we also have the Meadowlands Environmental Research Institute, I think it's called. So yeah, so how would this work? So in the bottom left, we have deployed sensors out there in the field. You know, this could be a YSI or a stream gauge or something like that. And usually the data is telemetered somehow back to the parent organization. So what our system would do, we would have the parent organization register those sensors with our WQX system. And then in a separate track, we would have them transfer their data to a data appliance. And this would be on their end, on top of their data system that they have, or it could be in the cloud. And this is just a way of making their data discoverable to the discovery tool at the top, which is where the user interface would be. So the data appliance and the discovery tool would talk back and forth and say, I have this data available, and the user could query through the discovery tool to find data. So the discovery tool would go out and talk to the data appliance. And then hopefully in the future, you know, there's a lot of sites where you have say a YSI measuring water quality, and you also take nutrient and chlorophyll samples there. So all of that data is probably in Storette. So we hope to marry those two data sets so you can go to a site and say, I'm going to get this continuous data and I want to get the data in WQX Storette. So to date, we've had face-to-face meetings with our partners in New Jersey a few weeks ago, and we have a visit with Ohio in a few weeks. And we have finalized the metadata catalog. So this is where a data provider would go to register their sensor. It would just be a one-time registration. And then if you made any major updates to your site, you could then go back in later and update that. But this metadata catalog, so everything that we want to include here are the things that a user would want to be able to query the data by. So you'd want to, probably query by location or time frame or measurement increments or the type of data. So I just want pH data for this time frame. So that was, we've had a lot of conversations back and forth about what should be included, because we don't want to make it overburdensome for a data provider to want to participate, but at the same time, the system only works if the user can query by multiple different needs that they would have. So out of the New Jersey meeting, it was a great meeting. It was about a day and a half. We developed some user stories, which really is just helping us sort of know what possible use cases would, be in existence, and then sort of brainstorm through those. How would you know if you had gotten to success? How would you be able to judge? So this is just building capacity for us to be able to know if we've succeeded in getting the users what they need. And at that meeting, we also gauged the current data QA/QC and handling process of each of the partners, and then we had breakout sessions to talk about their data system, where their data is, if it's on a server behind a firewall, so that process was really to set up the data appliance. So we're working with each partner to set up a different data appliance on their system that can talk to our data discovery tool. So yeah, I think I'll stop there. If there are any questions, I'd love to answer them.
Could you explain the QA process that occurs from in between when samples are transmitted straight to, I guess, the user? I didn't really see a step in between there, which is talking about that.
So the QA is sort of something we work with each individual partner with right now. We don't really want to change their QA process. We just want to make their QA process known to the user. So say they go, find some data from the Meadowlands. They want to know if it's raw data, if it's provisional data, if it's final data, and then also what metadata is associated with those data QA/QC tiers. So within the system, we have built in flags that say raw, provisional, and final, and then we're also requiring some sort of metadata document. So it would really just be a link, probably on the same page where the data is, that you would be able to go to the data provider's website and see their QAP or, just any sort of metadata records that they have. So we don't want to change their process. We just want to make their process discoverable. Does that answer the question?
Yeah, kind of. So I guess the final data is the only data that's actually been QA'd by the group.
Well, so a lot of times, there'll be raw real-time data just coming off of a sensor, and then provisional data will be, it's usually some sort of automated process where the data has gone through, say, an Excel macro to flag spikes in the data or, just bad data or missing data, stuff like that. And then, they might have a metadata document that you could go to that would explain what those flags mean. So that would be like provisional data. And then, final data is probably, for a lot of agencies, probably a year or two down the line when someone goes through all of it and deletes the bad data and qualifies data. Is that?
Okay, yeah, that answers it. I was just
okay.
curious because we've had a lot of issues with continuous data coming in, like real life, and finding that, you know, the probe is malfunctioning or, you know, fouling or whatever. So I was just curious to what it was. So it sounds like the final data is the final vetted everything QA/QC data. So okay.
Yes, and it's, you know, it's up to each individual partner what data they want to share, right? So some agencies are only going to want to give you the final data. They're not necessarily going to want to share provisional data, or maybe some continuous real-time data, but only for a few weeks. So we're working with each partner to sort of discover that. So it is a pilot project, so I imagine we'll have some more answers down the line.
Okay, great. Yes, that makes sense. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Any other questions?
All right, a question here from the IT shop. What is Jersey looking for as far as the overhead to maintain their appliance? What are they looking for from EPA? Or actually, the real question is, are they using a third party?
They are. So they use Rutgers. They go through Rutgers, and Rutgers has set up their system, and they also just recently, I think in the last year, have a website where you can go discover all of the sensor data that they're collecting. So they are on a server behind the Rutgers firewall.
So the NGO is using the same repository?
No, the Meadowlands Environmental Research Institute is not. They use a different system, which is great for us because as part of the pilot project, we want to know how to work with all data providers, right? So their system is a little different.
Well, just thinking about the sustainability, maintaining a repository that will handle that amount of data, that NGO is supported, are they using a third-party provider themselves?
They are, and I don't remember who exactly they're using, but it's basically just software that posts their data to the web in real time in just a graph form. So as part of this system, we don't want, not just we don't want, we can't really store all of this data centrally with EPA headquarters. So what we're doing is connecting people to the data that the data provider stores on their site. And usually data providers have a system set up that they, you know, archive their data and things like that. So we're just trying to make the data more discoverable in a central location.
Are you finding that Rutgers is keeps the data rather close to their chest? Stipulations on accessing it?
You know, I don't know that it's Rutgers so much as it's New Jersey DEP. They really only want to, right now, they really only want to make the final data available. Just, you know, you can imagine there's all sort of litigious reasons that they would want to do that. So we're working with them, but their final data is pretty good. It's up in like 3 weeks from when they collected the data, so we're working.
Yeah, and that was why I kind of asked the QA question, because we've had a lot of regulatory concerns in the past with data that wasn't vetted that got released to the public, and there's a lot of issues that happen that way. So I kind of understand where they're coming from there.
Yep, exactly, and that's something that we are very aware of. So as we said, we want to make the data discoverable to users who need it in a way that they want to discover it, but at the same time, we know metadata needs to be attached. I'm a big proponent of metadata, so we want them to know this is raw data, or this is provisional, but these are the QA/QC standards they've gone through. Are there any more questions? Okay, great. We will move on. We have a break.
So we can push back into my time a little bit. I think I can.
Okay.
I can move along. No worries. And then after your presentation, we can do a break.
I did have a question on the sensor because I'm a little confused. Could you explain a little bit more about that Hackensack mistake? Because it sounds like there are 2 data providers that are Rutgers, and I also hear Meadowlands.
Yes, correct. So in each of the states, so we have one demo project in Ohio and one in New Jersey. And each of those states, we're trying to pair with at least 2 data providers. So the 2 that we've identified and want to participate are New Jersey DEP /Rutgers and the Meadowlands. And in Ohio, I have to admit I'm not really sure because we haven't had our face-to-face meeting with them. Dwayne would know.
But other
And
groups,
if I want to find out more information about that, could you send me more information, or is it available on a website somewhere, or?
There are some documents on that water quality framework SharePoint that Dwayne had up earlier, and also that's probably where we're going to put the recording for this this training. So that website definitely has some information on the sensors. Just go to the sensors tab, and there's some documents in there. But then also, I'm be happy to talk with you, Stan.
Okay, thank you.
and to elaborate, Dwayne and Britt and all the interoperable watersheds team have been working with other partners beyond the two that she mentioned. They've been informing the process on how it's going to work, like the USGS in the New Jersey area, other Region 2, I believe, participates in some capacity or have submitted sites to be considered for the project. So it's not that other partners aren't participating, it's that we're not supporting the data appliance for those other partners. So like USGS already has data in a format which is shareable via the sensor observation services. So they're not, we don't need to support them in that effort. So we identified the two partners which we can support, but everybody's invited to participate if they can build out the application themselves.
And in the future, we do want this to go nationwide. So these are just sort of the groups we're starting out with to see how much time and effort it takes to put these systems in place.
So is USGS and EPA pursuing different formats for this continuous monitoring data?
So no, actually, so EPA is looking at a different way to register the sensors. So we were thinking about using WQX to register the sensors for kind of that catalog piece, but we're still pursuing the WaterML2 data standard, which is what USGS uses. So it's going to be easily integrated between the two. Which Britt just switched her slide to show you the WaterML.
Sorry, I had more information.
Standard.
I just didn't want to overload you guys.
And then to further describe, and you kind of talked about the sustainability of the project. So we're also looking in this first project is the data appliances, but we're also looking into what are these cloud solutions that we can use. So where can a user have their own instance in the cloud where they can load their provisional data, their final data that can be accessible via this catalog and via data retrieval. So the only option is not just submitting data via appliance. There are going to be other options, but they're going to be built out within time. Did you have anything else you wanted to chat about with your presentation?
Nope, I think that's it.
Okay, any other final questions? Okay, so I think